This is the July 19th, 2010 issue of United Nations Week, News and Views. My name is John Kerry. The views expressed here are mine alone unless I indicate some other source. The purpose of the program is to bring to your attention information and reactions thereto that you will not come across most likely any other place. First of all, protection of women, a new organizational development at the UN. On July 2nd, the Secretary General hailed as, quote, truly a wonderful day, the General Assembly's establishment of what's called UN Women. UN Women is a new agency of the UN. Quote, bringing together four parts of the United Nations system devoted to women's issues, unquote. The Secretary General said he would like to, quote, thank the wonderful gift of the division, the wonderful staff of the Division for the Advancement of Women, the International Research and Training Institute for the Advancement of Women, known by its acronym of INSTRAW, I-N-S-T-R-A-W, the Office of the Special Advisor on Gender Issues, and the United Nations Development Fund for Women, known as UNIFEM, UNIFEM. These are four separate agencies, and really it's not as though they're going to be merged into one. It's more like the creation of the Department of Internal Security in the United States. Various agencies are supposedly unified, but what it really amounts to primarily is that they just have a new layer of bureaucracy over and above them all as an umbrella. Well, this is a quote, we will work to ensure the transition is as smooth as possible while the staff of the four existing entities continue to perform their usual functions. So you see, it's not really a merger. As you know, the new resolution has established the post of an Undersecretary General to head the new entity. And I am working to identify the most suitable candidate, says the Secretary General. Until the post is filled, I have asked the Deputy Secretary General, Dr. Asha Rose Migiro, to guide the transition process, says Mr. Bond. Before the Assembly vote to create UN Women, Asha Rose Migiro told the press that eight countries had already nominated candidates to head UN Women, whose creation had taken 4 years to negotiate and which would carry out both normative and operational functions. Well, there are two extremely serious women's issues that the UN might someday confront. Female genital mutilation, FGM, and clothing covering the face. FGM is a hideous custom in various countries, and the cutting referred to is normally performed by women. Read up on it and see what torment a society can condone out of sheer habit, supposedly not motivated by any religious belief. As regards clothing covering the face, the French National Assembly on July 13th approved by a vote of 335-1 a ban on burqa-style veils. The legislation goes to the Senate of France in September, and after that it could be declared unconstitutional. About 4 million out of France's 64 million people are believed to be Muslims. Anyone convicted of forcing someone to wear the garb could get a year in prison and a $39,000 fine. So this can punish men as well as women. Spain and Belgium have similar laws in the works. Now I turn to protection of Taliban and al-Qaeda suspects. There is a list maintained by the so-called 1267 committee. This is a committee created by Security Council Resolution 1267. And apparently it's gotten out of hand, because if you want to get even with somebody, you just contact this committee and tell them that your enemy is connected with Al-Qaeda, and without too much more examination, your enemy's name goes on this public list. Well, that's of course open to serious abuse, and there has been a lot of complaining about it. Well, now there's going to be an ombudsperson, Kimberly Prost, P-R-O-S-T, and she said on July 15th that she would address serious concern about due process, and that her office would have a standalone website, a public email address, and simple, straightforward procedures for petitioning for redress. She said she hopes to meet with petitioners' representatives, especially in countries where access is a problem. The chairperson of the 1267 committee, a man named Thomas Mar Harting of Austria, said that it is his committee is, quote, the mother regime of all sanctions regimes, unquote, in which lack of due process is most criticized in court. He hopes the new office will be effective in strengthening due process and the rule of law. Finally, I turn to the U.S. gearing up to draft a treaty on the arms trade. After years of protracted talks, the UN is finally set to begin intergovernmental negotiations on a binding treaty. These negotiations have already started as of now. Here is a quote from Roberto Garcia Moritan, chairman of the Preparatory Committee for the UN Conference on the Arms Trade Treaty. Quote, questions surrounding the global arms trade have been a priority since the creation of the League of Nations. Creation of the League of Nations was by the Treaty of Versailles right after World War I. Garcia Moritan said the negotiations on the elements of the long in gestation accord would govern the sale of fighter planes, unmanned aerial vehicles, missiles, and light weapons, among other arms. And the session going on now will last through the 23rd of July, and the proposed treaty may be adopted by a conference of states parties in 2012. The treaty would not contradict the principle in Article 50, the self-defense principle in Article 51 of the UN Charter. And as for those who defend the Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution right to bear arms, as recently reaffirmed by the U.S. Supreme Court, Mr. Garcia Moritan said, the purpose of the proposed arms trade treaty is not to disarm anyone, prohibit sales, or hinder national decisions on how weapons were handled, but to ensure common international import and export standards. In other words, whatever the law may be in the United States on the right to bear arms, this treaty is not supposed to have anything to do with that, but only on international trade in arms. Friends, that's all for this July 19th issue of United Nations Week News and Views. We'll be back with the next issue. Meantime, if you would like to see the YouTube version of this episode, just send an email requesting the URL. Send it to j_pcarey@verizon.net. And if you'd like to send along your comments, which I hope you will, please send them to www.unweek.blogspot.com. Goodbye for now, and thank you very much for watching.